Greetings. Welcome to this presentation on creating social narratives presented by CARD USF. CARD USF is a discretionary grant project of the Florida Department of Education. Discretionary meaning part of the budget is invested, brokered, in this case, supporting students with autism. CARD USF supports individuals of all ages with autism spectrum disorder from diagnosis throughout their lifespan. We provide resources and guidance to individuals and their families, offered in person, virtually, and in the community. We also deliver training, outreach, and support for professionals, businesses, and community programs to enhance their ability to include individuals with ASD. There are 7 CARD centers statewide, all housed at state universities. All services and resources are offered at no charge. CARD USF serves 14 counties in Southwest Florida. Intention today is to describe a social narrative, explain the purpose of creating a social narrative, and the key elements to include when crafting a social narrative. What is a social narrative? A social narrative is an evidence-based practice for individuals with autism. Simply put, a social narrative is a story created about attending a new event, activity, or learning a new skill, and the social expectations that are paired with those experiences. Social narratives are effectively utilized by individuals of all ages. A small bit of background information on social narratives. Carol Gray is an educator that introduced the concept of social stories in 1989. She is the founder of Social Stories and has since trademarked the name. You may hear the term social narrative, social story, social experience story, power cards, or script. Each label refers to the same concept. Why use a social narrative? The benefits of creating a social narrative are evidence-based. Some of these benefits include creating interest in an unknown experience, increasing engagement, and reducing anxiety in new environments or experiences. A social narrative describes the experience through the perspective of the reader. This is done by using I or we statements throughout the narrative. How to get started. When creating a social narrative, you will transport the reader to the location and provide a walkthrough of what they will encounter. There are apps, software, and templates available for creating social narratives, but they are not required. PowerPoint or Pages are widely acceptable and simple to use. There are several elements that should be included in the social narrative. Elements to include: a note to caregiver, optional; visual supports; descriptive, directive, and control sentences; warnings about possible sensory triggers or social challenges; rules and expectations for the new experience; ideals and skills for coping, as well as providing reassurance; and vocabulary. Important to consider. When crafting the social narrative, tailor it to the intended audience. You will need to use language that is appropriate for your learner. The complexity of the narrative, length, and type of visuals should be at the level of your intended audience. You might even consider only using visuals if that's appropriate for the individual. A note to caregiver. Including a note to a caregiver may not be required depending on the audience. If one is included, it can be located at the beginning or the end of the social narrative. A note to a caregiver can include important information they might need to know, but that's not necessarily pertinent to the individual. If you are crafting a narrative for a student, you might make a copy with a note to the caregiver so that they can read it at home. The next element is visuals. A social narrative contains many visuals. Start with adding images of actual locations, images of behaviors being modeled, and examples of visuals an individual might encounter in the environment. You can use clip art or photos of the individual or photos of people the individual is familiar with. Vocabulary. There might be some specific vocabulary that is relevant to the individual's experience. Include those words and provide an explanation. This can also include words that are uncommon, and an individual would benefit from receiving an explanation in context. Not every social narrative will require the use of vocabulary explanation. Vocabulary should be embedded in the social narrative at naturally occurring places. For example, if you are creating a social narrative about a visit to the library, you might include the name of a kiosk or any other vocabulary specific to that trip to the library. Descriptive sentence. The purpose of a social narrative is to provide a reader with what they can expect. Using descriptive sentence is the way to achieve that goal. A descriptive sentence explains and describes what the reader will be doing, where they will be doing it, how and why they will be doing it, and other people that may be involved. This is written from the reader's perspective using I or we. Most of the social narrative is comprised of descriptive sentences. When creating the narrative, think about starting at the entrance of the location, describing what an individual will see, any steps that need to be done. Continuing with the narrative, describe any other individuals they might encounter. Think about the environment in the context of the five senses. Maybe it's a loud noise or a strong smell that would be helpful to let the individual know about in advance. Examples of descriptive sentences. When I arrive in the classroom, I will see a cubby for my backpack. When I get on the bus, I might see many people. It might be loud. When I walk through the doors, I will feel a lot of cold air. When I go to the bathroom, the dryer might be loud. Use perspective. The research on ASD has provided an immense amount of insight on perspective. In the social narrative, incorporate what could be the individual's perspective. This includes statements such as I might feel, I might like, or I might be, including not only the individual's perspective, but how other people might feel or handle a situation is also beneficial. Provide reassurance that it's okay to feel different or the same. Examples of use of perspective. Many people don't like waiting, but everyone feels happy when they get a turn. My friends are so happy when I share. I feel happy when my friends share with me too. I might like to read out loud. Other people in the library might like to read in their head. It can be hard for them to concentrate. Directive statements. Directive statements are what the individual should do. These are sentences that include the rules or expectation. The key is to keep it positive. Focus on the appropriate behaviors for the situation. Avoid using don't or stop. Define and describe the appropriate behavior as opposed to what not to do. Examples include stating that we walk when inside instead of no running. You can also provide a cue. This is a way to provide a hint on how to respond in a certain situation. Examples of directive statements. I will try to use my inside voice. I will keep my hands at my side or hold onto a fidget. I will use my words to ask for help. I might want to touch my friends, but I will keep my hands to myself. The last example provides a cue. It provides a statement and signals what the individual can do. Control sentences. A control sentence gives the individual something to do to cope with a situation. This is exclusively from the perspective of the reader. Control sentences are helpful for problem solving. Examples of control sentences. The room might be loud. I can wear headphones if I feel overwhelmed. If I am feeling that I need to use my loud voice, I can go outside to take a break. If I smell something unpleasant, I can try to breathe through my mouth. How a social narrative is utilized. Exposure. Social narratives can be read by an individual or be read to by a caregiver. Multiple exposure has been proven to be a best practice. Social narratives can be paper-based or electronic. Tips. A few tips to keep in mind when crafting the social narrative. Keep the focus on the experience, expectations, and possible sensory components that an individual might encounter. Keep the social narrative concise and limit a few sentences to each page. Consider creating more than one narrative for different experiences. This might be lunchtime versus an academic class. Include pictures of the individual or other familiar people. Make sure the narrative contains 2 to 5 descriptive type sentences for every one directive type of sentence. This is an example of a social narrative. The title is personalized. Isaac goes to school. The first page has a few sentences about what is going to happen and who is involved. The next page sets the expectation for how to enter the school, as well as a picture of the expected behavior. After entering the school, the story presents what happens when there might be uncertainty as to what to do. This page also includes a picture of the actual classroom. The next page sets the expectations for entering the room, as well as a picture modeling the behavior. There's also a cue for what to do if a student encounters another student. The final page shows the last step for arriving to school, lets the reader know what they might feel, and offers suggestions to remember that mom or dad will be back after school. Thank you for watching. Please reach out with any questions or requests for additional support. To register with CARD, scan the QR code or go to our website. Please be advised all images have been obtained with proper licensing and/or permission.